On a tiny island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, the United States is spending $800 million to build a giant military machine that most people will never see. This project is called the Tinian Pacific Region Military Upgrade, and it is happening on a piece of land only 101 kilometers in size. Engineers are currently working to fix a massive runway that is 2,621 millimeters long and 46 millimeters wide. This strip of pavement has to be strong enough to hold a plane weighing 377,389 kilo without cracking. To make this happen, workers are moving millions of kg of earth and clearing 185 hectares of thick jungle that has been growing for decades. But how do you build a massive base on an island made of soft coral rock without it sinking into the sea? To understand why this is such a big deal, we have to look back at a time when this island was the most important place on Earth. In 1944, during World War II, a group of 15,000 workers called CBS arrived on Tinian. They worked day and night, even while people were shooting at them, to build the largest airfield in the world. They moved nearly 765,000 cub-m of earth and coral to create 4 giant runways. Their trucks drove more than 1.44 million kilometers just to move materials from one side of the island to the other. These runways were so big that they could hold 265 giant bombers at once. This was the same place where the planes took off to end the war in 1945. After the war ended, the military left, and the jungle grew back over everything. For almost 80 years, these massive concrete strips were hidden under trees and vines. But why is the military coming back to these old runways now? The world is changing, and the old runways are still there, hidden in the dark jungle. Bringing them back to life in 2026 is a massive engineering nightmare. Do you want to see how they are doing it? Let's start with the most important part of any airfield, the ground. On Tinian, the ground is not made of normal dirt. The whole island is actually an old coral reef that pushed up out of the ocean. If you have ever touched a piece of coral, you know it is very light and full of tiny holes. For an engineer, this is a big problem. When you try to build something heavy on coral, it can crush or break. To solve this, engineers have to test how much the ground can push back. They found that the friction or the grip of the coral rock is very low. It is only about 21% as strong as regular sand. This means if you try to drive a giant steel pole into the ground to hold up a building, it might just slide right through. To fix this, the engineers are using a very cool machine called a pavement milling machine. This giant machine has a spinning drum with metal teeth that grinds up the old World War II pavement. It digs down exactly 305 millimeters into the ground. Instead of throwing the old pavement away, they grind it into tiny pieces. Then they mix it with a special recipe. They take that old material and add 10% new asphalt and 4% Portland cement. This creates a super strong base that can handle the weight of the biggest planes in the sky. How do they make sure the runway is perfectly flat? They use satellites in space. The bulldozers and graders on Tinian are equipped with a system called Trimble Earthworks. This system uses GPS to talk to the machines. The drivers have a screen in their cab that tells them exactly where to move the dirt. It can tell them if they are even a few mm too high or too low. This technology allows them to grade the entire 185 hectares of land with perfect accuracy. Without these satellites, it would take months longer to get the ground ready for the heavy concrete. Speaking of concrete, the parking areas for the planes have to be even stronger than the runways. These areas, called aprons, are where the planes sit while they get fuel. The military requires the concrete here to be at least 300 millimeters thick. This thick concrete ensures that when a 377,000 kg plane sits in one spot for a long time, it doesn't leave a dent in the ground. But a runway is useless if it is covered in water. Tinian is in a part of the ocean that gets hit by massive storms called typhoons. These storms can drop 76 millimeters of rain in just 1 hour. If that water stays on the runway, a plane will slide like it is on ice. This is called hydroplaning. To prevent this, engineers cut tiny lines into the surface of the asphalt. This is called grooving. These grooves give the water a place to go, so the tires of the plane can always touch the ground. They also built a massive drainage system under the airfield. They installed hundreds of meters of heavy plastic pipes and big concrete boxes called catchment basins. These basins have heavy metal covers that are 254 millimeters thick. These covers have to be bolted down with special locking devices. Why? Because when a jet engine blows air over them at high speeds, it creates a vacuum that could suck a heavy metal lid right off the ground and into the engine that would destroy the plane instantly. But how do these planes get the energy to fly? That brings us to one of the biggest parts of the $800 million plan, the fuel system. At first, the military wanted to use big trucks to move fuel from the harbor to the airport. However, they realized that driving hundreds of heavy fuel trucks every day would destroy the local roads and create a lot of traffic for the 3,500 people who live on the island. So, they decided to build a massive pipeline instead. This pipeline connects the seaport directly to the airport. It allows thousands of L of fuel to flow safely underground. They also built a diesel storage tank that holds 4,391 L of fuel just to run the backup generators that keep the lights on if the power goes out. The harbor where the fuel ships arrive also needed a lot of work. The old walls were built in the 1940s and were falling apart because of the salt in the ocean. Engineers had to replace 1.40 meter of the harbor wall. This is a very difficult job because you have to work underwater. Navy divers had to go down and weld special metal pieces called zinc anodes to the walls. These pieces act like a shield. They rust so that the main wall doesn't have to. But the divers had a problem. There were endangered corals growing on the old walls. The engineers didn't want to kill the coral, so they did something amazing. They spent 16 hours learning how to move the coral. The divers carefully popped each piece of coral off the wall and moved it to a new home outside the harbor. They used a special kind of underwater glue made of silica sand and cement to stick the coral to the seafloor in its new location. Protecting nature is actually one of the biggest challenges on Tinian. There is a tiny bird called the Tinian monarch that only lives on this one island. There are about 91,420 of these birds left. When the military clears the jungle to build runways, they are taking away the birds' homes. To fix this, the engineers changed their plans. They decided to build mostly on the areas that were already cleared back in World War II. This helped save the 222 hectares of native forest where the birds like to live. They are also building a special biosecurity facility at the port. This is basically a giant inspection station. Every truck and crate that comes to the island is checked for hitchhikers like snakes or bugs that could hurt the local environment. If you think this sounds like a lot of work, you are right. But not everyone on the island is happy about it. The total cost is roughly $800 million, with $384 million going to the airport and $49 million going to the North Field. People who live on Tinian have said the noise from the jets is very loud. They rate it as a 7 out of 10 on a scale of loudness. Some residents say the noise is so strong that it shakes their houses and makes it hard for kids to learn in school. There is also a worry that bringing 1,000 new workers to the island will make the cost of houses go up, making it hard for local families to afford a place to live. The mayor of the island has asked the military to be more honest and to make sure local people get jobs on the construction site. Despite these challenges, the project is moving fast. Most of the work is supposed to be finished by the year 2027. This will turn Tinian into a divert airfield. That means if the main base on the nearby island of Guam is ever closed because of a bad storm or a war, the planes will have a safe place to land. It is like having a spare tire for a car, but the tire is a giant $800 million island base. By the time it is done, this small island will be one of the most technologically advanced spots in the Pacific Ocean. Thanks for watching this story about the massive upgrade on Tinian. If you enjoyed learning about the engineering behind this $800 million project, please hit the button to like this video. Comment below and let us know what you think about building bases on coral islands. Subscribe to the Ultimate Mega Builds channel and turn notifications on so you never miss a new video about the most amazing construction projects on Earth. We will see you in the next one.